Transparency and total disclosure, I'm going to come right out and tell you that this particular video is going to be longer than a minute. Even though it says the real estate minute above my head, for those of you that follow me and have seen my videos before, you know I do a lot of these videos for home buyers as well as home sellers on a lot of different topics. I typically will answer the question within a minute. Many of you will say, great, I watched the video, I learned something, now I can move on with my day. But more and more of you, as I make these videos, are reaching out to me through socials, through text or email saying, I watched the video, but what about this? What about that? Or you have additional questions. I've got you guys covered as well. I write an article for every single video that I make. You can go to tomsummersrealestate.com, scroll to the blog section, and it's right there for you. I title the article the same as the video, so it's very easy to find. You won't get confused looking for it. So if you want to do a deep dive and get more information about any subject or question, it's right there at your fingertips and available for you anytime you want to access it. This is also not a political video. I'm not in favor of one party or the other or one candidate or the other. I'm simply going to look into this idea that if you are given a gift from the government of $25,000 because it's all over the news and social media, is that better, or is a better interest rate more advantageous to you as a home buyer? The only way you know this is to look at the facts, look at the math, and look at the scenarios to try to figure out what is best. That's what I'm here for. So there are certain metrics I'm going to use for all the scenarios. The first one is an interest rate of 6.94% for a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. How did I get to that? Google searched it. Right now it's saying on the 23rd of September 2024 that the average conventional 30-year fixed interest rate is 6.94%. I'm not going to get into APR or get deep into the weeds on this. It's strictly for factual content so we can compare the scenarios. I'm going to be using $253 a month for property taxes. I took 5 houses for sale on the MLS right now that are $300,000, which is going to be our subject property amount. And the average was $253 per month. Then I did a Google search and asked, as a resident of Minnesota, what is the average cost per month for homeowners insurance? The number is $152, so I'm going to be using that as well. The last piece is I'm assuming as a home buyer, you've already saved enough for closing costs, which is typically 3% of any purchase. Now, some will be less, some will be more, but that goes back to getting the loan in the first place, of your credit score and all the other variables that they take into account. So again, for all purposes, we're just going to use 3%. So on a $300,000 purchase, you're looking at $9,000 in closing costs. If you want more information about what those closing costs are and how they're divided up, trust me, there is videos and blogs on my website. You can gain access to all of that. So let's set that aside. But now let's answer the question. Is the $25,000 gift from the government to help you buy a house better at 6.94% interest rate? Or are you better foregoing that at a better interest rate? So let's see how it calculates out. Scenario number 1, you're purchasing the house for $300,000. The government gives you $25,000. So your loan amount at 6.94% on a 30-year fixed rate is $275,000. Your monthly payment would be $1,820. Then when you add in the $152 a month for your home insurance and the $253 per month for your property tax, your total monthly payment for 30 years would be $2,225. Once you pay that off at the end of 30 years, not only will you have paid off your principal of the loan of $275,000 to the bank, you will also have paid them, in addition, $379,665 in interest. That's where they make their money, and that's why they want to offer you a loan. Scenario number 2. Let's say you don't get the $25,000 gift, but the interest rate drops to 4%, which was what it was typically at, give or take a half a percentage point either way, before the interest rates went up and the cost of living exploded. You purchase the house for $300,000, but this time you have 3% down for your loan, which is a conventional loan, the lowest amount you can put down, 3%, which would be $9,000. And you also have that other $9,000 for your closing costs. You have a total investment of $18,000 to get into this $300,000 home. The mortgage amount would be $291,000 in this scenario. But $291,000 at a 4% interest rate would be principal and interest payment of $1,389. When you add in the other two, which is the $152 for your home insurance and the $253 for your property tax, your total payment for 30 years would be $1,776. So that would be less, obviously, than the $2,225 in scenario number one. But here's where it gets really interesting. Not only is your payment lower by $400 and some odd dollars a month, when you pay off your interest and your loan over the 30 years, you will be paying an additional $209,140 in interest. But you'll be saving $170,525 in the life of that loan because your interest rate was at 4%, even though your loan amount was higher because your interest rate was lower. Scenario number three. What if you say, well, gee, Tom, I've got 3% down on this purchase of $300,000, which is $9,000, as you know, but I don't have the $18,000 total. I only have $9,000. Well, you need the $9,000 for your down payment to get the loan in the first place. So in many situations, when we're not in a market where you're in multiple offers, you can ask the seller to pay the closing costs, which is basically a legal way of rolling the closing costs into your loan. So I'll try to walk you through this and have it make sense. So you're buying the house for $300,000 and you put down 3% or $9,000 in the loan. So your total loan will be $291,000. But you don't have the $9,000 in closing costs. So you say to the seller, will you let me pay $300,000 for the house and you pay $9,000 towards the closing costs? So it's not a benefit to them, and it's a way for you to legally roll it in to your mortgage. So now you're paying on a house for $300,000, you put the 3% down, you're financing the 3% in closing costs. So your total loan amount will again be $300,000, but this time at a 4% interest rate. So you didn't get help from the government of the $25,000. You put down $9,000 for your down payment. You got the loan for 4%, and you rolled an additional $9,000 into that loan for your closing costs, so you don't have to bring it to the table at closing. Your total payment would be $1,837, and that's with the taxes and the home insurance rolled in. Without it, it would have been $1,432. So at $1,837 on a $300,000 loan for 30 years at 4%, you're going to be paying an additional $215,608 in interest above the initial loan amount. But you will be saving over $182,057 in interest over the life of the loan at the 4%. And the difference between scenario number 2 and scenario number 3 was about $6,500 more in interest paid over the life of the loan. So that's a little less than what you initially used for your closing costs. So when you look at these three scenarios, it's pretty obvious to me, just from a basic math standpoint, that the $25,000 that the government's proposing they'll give you isn't as good as if they can just bring the interest rate back down to an average of 4%. In the long run, you'll be saving $180,000 in interest over the life of the loan if you were to stay there for the 30 years. But in addition, your payments are going to be anywhere from $400 to $500 less a month, even without the extra money. So hopefully this answered some questions for you and brought some of this into focus. If you have additional questions, please, as always, feel free to reach out to me on socials, send me an email, send me a text. I'll be more than happy to answer any question you have. If you know anybody that's confused and is thinking about buying or selling a house and could use some advice, please have them reach out to me. I promise I'll take great care of them. Thanks again. Sorry for the length of this video, but hopefully I taught you something and it was worth your while to watch. Have a great day.